Holding chapter 30 in the first volume. Siman Lamed, chapter 30. So today we're starting the laws of Lashon Hara. Anyone knows what that is? Yeah, it's not a good thing. Lashon Hara. It's not good speech. I just want to review a few points that we learned about yesterday. Can anybody summarize, if you see a friend of yours who is doing things which are not right? So yesterday we learned there's the mitzvah of Cheach Teichiach, literally translated to rebuke. What is the proper way if you want to give somebody, want to rebuke somebody? What is the proper way of doing it? Does anyone remember? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. It should be done in private, definitely not in front of anybody else. It has to be done in a gentle manner, not to chas v'shalom make them feel bad, because the whole purpose is to strengthen them and to bring them back to keeping Torah mitzvahs. Now, does anybody remember what happens if you know they're not going to listen to you? Do you still rebuke them or you keep quiet? No, you don't rebuke them. You don't say anything. As we learned yesterday, just like there's a mitzvah to say something which is going to be listened, the exact same thing, there's a mitzvah to say something which is not going to be listened to. So if you know that they're not going to be listening, they're going to, brush you off, then you should not say anything. Yesterday also we mentioned, it's really connected to the same topic, about the prohibition to chas v'shalom to embarrass somebody. And for sure, if it's done publicly, then this is not a good thing at all. Now, what happens if somebody wronged their friend? They did something. Now, this friend, we learned previously that you're actually supposed to go and not keep a grudge in your heart. Rather, you should go and speak to your friend and tell them, why did you wrong me? To clarify it face to face and not to keep a grudge. What happens if somebody wants to go ahead? I'm forgiving the person. I don't want to talk to them about it. I'm moving forward. It's as if it didn't happen. Is this a praiseworthy thing to do? Or do we say, no, you still have to go to your friend and confront them? It's the proper thing to do. That's right. You do not have to confront them, because the main issue is when you have a grudge in your heart. If you have a grudge in your heart, then you're not allowed to keep a grudge. You have to go and speak it openly. But if you're able to forgive your friend for what happened and you're able to move on without doing so, this is a very pious thing to do. And we mentioned also yesterday that there's a special mitzvah to be extra careful with orphans and widows. And as mentioned, it doesn't matter if they come from a family with a lot of wealth. It says very clearly that nevertheless, their heart is broken and you have to be extra careful. So you have to be careful with Am Yisrael in general, and even extra careful when it comes to orphans and widows. Also yesterday we learned another special halacha of not to do things that, even though there's really nothing wrong, however, if somebody else may perceive that you are transgressing, you're doing something wrong, then this act should not be done. Does anyone remember the example that we gave yesterday? Eating meat with almond milk. Almond milk, there's absolutely nothing wrong. It's parv. However, it looks like milk. And if somebody walks into the room, they may not know. So what do? You put the bottle of almond milk on the table, so everyone's going to know. So things like that, if people may think, oh, and the other example we brought of going into a non-kosher store, even though what you're doing has nothing to do with buying non-kosher food, but nevertheless, it should not be done. All right, we're holding now Siman Lamed, chapter 30. Isser Rechilus, Lashon Hara, Nekima, Netira. We're going to be learning now about the halachas, the prohibitions of Rechilus, going around talebearing, saying things about, oh, did you hear this? Did you hear that? Lashon Hara, saying not good things, negative things, chas v'shalom, about your friends. Nekima, Netira. Nekima is nekama, to take revenge, chas v'shalom, on somebody else. Netira is keeping a grudge. We'll learn exactly what all of that means. So these are very, very important halachas for a very, very simple reason, because it can happen on a daily basis. People talk all day, right? You have friends, you speak, and we have to know what is allowed to be said and what is not allowed to be said, how a Jew should speak, and what a Jew should refrain from. Aleph. So let's start with the first halacha. First, we're going to start by learning, not going straight into Lashon Hara of speaking negatively about another person. We're going to start with something called Rechilus. Rechilus means talebearing, going around and just talking about other people. Did you hear about this person? Did you hear what that person said? So even though you're not saying anything negative, but this is something called Rechilus, which in itself, even if you're not saying anything negative, is also problematic, is not allowed to be said. So Aleph, the first halacha, Ksiv, the Torah says, Leiseilech Rachel ba'amecha. One should not go talebearing amongst your nation. Izahu Rachel, what does it mean, somebody who is a Rachel, a talebearer? What are practical examples? How do we understand what this means? One should not Rechilus, talebearing, means somebody goes around from this person to that person, and he says, this is what so-and-so said, this is what I heard from this person about that person. So even though it's very possible that what you're saying is 100% true, and also it does not shame the other person at all, there's no embarrassment to the other person, you're not saying anything wrong about the other person, nevertheless, this is the prohibition of talebearing. It is actually a very big prohibition. The Gerim, La'arig, Nefashis, Yisrael, and it causes not good things. And the Torah puts right beside this verse of do not stand on the blood of your friend. So we see, the Torah takes this very, very seriously. Okay, let's go to base. It tells a story. Let's go to base, the second halacha. So that's the prohibition of talebearing. I went to the party and this person was wearing that and that. Oh, wow. That's not so much of the problem. More of, this person said that. Did you hear about this, about that person? These are very, very common things, right? This is what's called the Ma'asim B'chol Yom. It's daily occurrences. So even these small things, we have to be careful how we speak, not to go around and talebearing about other people. Based the second halacha, Yesh Alvin Godel Miza'ad Ma'oid. There's an even greater prohibition, more than just talebearing. This it's also included in this prohibition. Lashon Hara. Can anyone guess what the difference between talebearing and Lashon Hara is? Lashon Hara is translated into slander. That probably gives it away. Talebearing is just going around speaking about others, but not necessarily are you saying something that's going to hurt the other person. It's not, so to speak, it doesn't embarrass the other person. It doesn't humiliate the other person. Here, Lashon Hara is doing the exact same thing, but also speaking negatively about another person. So it's also talebearing, but talebearing which has a negative effect on your friend. And this is exactly what it says. Somebody who speaks in the shame of their friend. And this is a very important thing. Even if what you're saying is true, what actually did happen, this person did do that. Nevertheless, to go around and speak about your friend, and this speech is going to cause them shame, true or not true, this is not allowed. Actually, if it's not true, it has a different name to it. Somebody says something which is not true about their friend. Nikra meitzi shemra al chavere. But Lashon Hara is sheyesh ve'emer kach v'kach asa pleni, kach v'kach ha'yavesav, kach v'kach shalaiti olav, ve'emer dvarim shel genai. So, if somebody says something which shames another person, but it's true, this is called Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara, literally evil speech, not good speech. Lashon Hara, the not good speech. If somebody goes around and saying things which are not true, that's something called Meitzi Shem Ra. You go ahead and say things about somebody else which is not true, it's still a prohibition, but it has a different name of Meitzi Shem Ra. So an example of Lashon Hara, what we just read, I'll just translate it, is somebody who's sitting and he says, this person, they did that and that. This person, his parents, they come from this and this and that. I heard this and this about that person. And when you say those things, you're saying disrespectful things that could possibly hurt your friend. On this behavior, on these actions, the Torah says, Yachres Hashem kol sifsei chalakis, loshin medaberes gedolos. That Hashem pretty much should take away the mouths that speak these things. Now that's all we just learned about somebody who speaks Lashon Hara. What about somebody who listens to Lashon Hara? Is one allowed to listen to Lashon Hara? What do you think? The answer is no, correct. Now, Makabel Lashon Hara is somebody who accepts Lashon Hara, who garua yeser min ha'emrei. It says over here, not only are you not allowed to accept it, but it says over here, the person who accepts it from their friend is even worse off than the one who said it. And look what it says, that the Yidden, they had to stay in the Midbar. What sealed the judgment that they had to stay in the desert? It's because of Lashon Hara. Yeah. So we see over here that a person's speech is very, very important. A person's speech, whatever they speak, has a tremendous effect. So we have to be careful to show respect to others, not to speak about them, even if what we're saying has absolutely no disrespect to them and it doesn't cause them any shame. Which prohibition is that? That's Rechilus. Rechilus is to go around and just speak about other people. Lashon Hara is to go around and say things which can make the other person feel hurt, even if they're not there. They're not hearing what you're saying, but if you go around and say these things about others, this is part of Lashon Hara. And the third prohibition is something called Meitzi Shem Ra. Somebody goes ahead And not only do they say not things which are not true, things that are true, but they go around and say things which are not true. They make up gossip, they make up things about their friends, things that never happened. So we have three things: going around and not saying anything negative, this is rechilos; saying something negative, Lashon Hara; making things up about others, this is meitzi shem ra. Gimel. So how far must one go to avoid Lashon Hara? And heichon Lashon Hara. Shoal echad lechavere ana emtza eish. Somebody asks from their friend, where can I find fire? For Amar Loi, heichon nimtza eish. And his friend answered him, what do you mean? You find it where there's fire. So what did he answer him? He said, person Aleph asked person Beis, where can I get some fire? Person Beis answered person Aleph, in a place where there's always fire, in so-and-so's house, where they have plenty of meat and fish, where they always cook. This is an example of Lashon Hara. So did you really go and say something so terrible? It's not necessarily so terrible, but we see over here the very fact that somebody, it was speaking in a not respectful way about another person. If somebody is more wealthy and, you say, oh, they have everything and stuff like that, we see this is an example actually of Lashon Hara. Daled. Yesh dvarim shehei avak Lashon Hara. There are things which are not exactly as direct Lashon Hara, but they are a milder case of Lashon Hara, so to speak. Keitzad, what does it mean? Avak Lashon Hara, a little bit lower, a lower degree, so to speak, of Lashon Hara. Amar shisku mipleni. Don't talk about such and such person. Eini reitzel idea ma eira ma haya. V'chayetze b'dvarim elu. Wow. What do we see over here? I'll translate. What is an example of a watered down version of Lashon Hara, so to speak? If somebody goes ahead and says, I don't want to speak about this person because I don't want to speak about this and this that happened. So did you actually say what happened? The answer is no, you didn't. You didn't do the real deal of Lashon Hara. But what did you do? You touched on a subject which everyone knows is embarrassing to another person. Oh, I don't want to speak about this person and speak about what just happened. So you're not mentioning what happened, but you're touching on the topic of something which can cause embarrassment to another person. This already itself is a form of Lashon Hara. It's called Avak Lashon Hara. Another example of Avak Lashon Hara, of a watered down version of Lashon Hara, so to speak. If somebody speaks good about somebody in front of somebody who doesn't like that person. So let's say Chaim doesn't like Beryl. I'm just making this up. So now you go to Chaim and say, Beryl is such a great person, such a great guy. Wow. So what are you doing really? You're speaking good about somebody in front of somebody who doesn't like them. So did you really do anything wrong? Did you speak Lashon Hara? Did you say anything of embarrassment to the other person? You didn't. But the very fact that you brought up this person and you praised them in front of somebody who does not like them, this is already a version of Lashon Hara, because what's going to happen? Automatically, the other person is going to start thinking badly about this person. Oh, this person, you really think he's good? He did this and this and that. And so on and so forth. This is considered a watered down version of Lashon Hara. Why? Because you cause the other person, once you bring up this person, it's going to cause them to speak negatively about them. So Shlomo Melech said the same thing. If you go ahead and you speak so nicely about a certain person, it's actually going to come back and bounce back the opposite way. Because the nice things that you said about another person, you said it in front of the wrong people. and they're going to come out to speak negatively about this person. Another example is you're not speaking Lashon Hara in a way of hatred. You're not speaking in a way that you want to hurt the other person. You're saying it as a joke, as yeah, this guy, he did this and that. So in your speech, you don't really mean it in a way of hatred, chas v'shalom, but this itself is included in Lashon Hara. Even if you're saying it in a joking way, in a, so to speak, in a harmless way, it's still considered Lashon Hara. Another example of Lashon Hara is if somebody speaks. Yes, right. They pretend that they're not speaking Lashon Hara. They're speaking innocently. No, this and this person did this and this and that. This is also considered Lashon Hara. And when you rebuke the person, when you rebuke the person for speaking Lashon Hara, he says, "Oh, that was Lashon Hara. I didn't know." This is also Lashon Hara. Yeah. So we see over here. We gave a bunch of examples of things that seem not so bad. Either you're saying it in a way that you don't actually say anything. You can say it in a way. You can say, for example, I don't want to bring up this person as a topic because I don't want to get into this and this topic, right? So seemingly, one may think, why is that bad? On the contrary, I'm doing a good thing. I'm avoiding the topic altogether. I don't want to go into this topic. However, it's not so simple. Because when you mention it, and you mention, I don't want to speak about what this and this that happened with this and this person, that already itself is not such a respectful way to speak about the other person. What would be a better way of saying it? To say in a general way, I do not want to discuss this topic. Because this way you're not mentioning the other person. You're not mentioning what happened. So you're not even touching on Lashon Hara. As soon as you mention a specific person and you mentioned a certain event that happened, this already brings up a negative thing about the person. But if you avoid the topic altogether without even mentioning the name of the other person, I don't want to speak about this and this topic, let's change topics. That's already okay. Also, if you go and you speak good things about somebody, but you do it in front of the wrong people, so even though really your actual actions, you did not say anything which is mean or can cause embarrassment to the other person, nevertheless, if you said those nice things about that person in front of the wrong people, it's going to cause them to speak Lashon Hara about them. What? Do you think they're such a good person? You know they did this and this and that? Or they think this and this and that about this and this topic? Right? So even though you didn't say that, but if you cause the other person to say it, this is a form of Lashon Hara. Another example that we mentioned is if you speak Lashon Hara jokingly, it's more of a relaxed environment. Oh, this person, yeah, they're this and this and that. So when you said it, you didn't mean it in a way to necessarily embarrass the other person. This person, yeah, whatever, they did this and this and that. You said it in a more of a joking atmosphere, so to speak. Nevertheless, this is also considered a form of Lashon Hara. And the last example that we mentioned was somebody who innocently speaks Lashon Hara. Oh, I saw this in this person, they were doing this and this and that. And when they're told that, this is Lashon Hara, oh, that was Lashon Hara, I didn't know, I'm just telling you what I saw. Stuff like that, right? Seemingly, it's very innocent, what's the big deal? Nevertheless, this is also a form of Lashon Hara. Hey, the fifth halacha, Echad ha-mesaper Lashon Hara b'fnei chaveirei esheloi b'fanav v'ha-mesaper dvarim shegemim nishma ish mipi ish lahazik chaveirei megufet b'mameinei v'afilu lahatzilei elav chidei harei zeh Lashon Hara. So somebody who speaks Lashon Hara, whether it's in front of the person which is being spoken about, whether it's not in front of them, whether somebody is saying over things that will eventually cause damage to the other person, whether physical damage or monetary damage, or even if it's something which is going to cause your friend to be afraid, you're going to cause fear to them. Oh no, this and this person found this and this information out about me. Oh, I don't know what to do with myself. If you caused this to somebody else, this is all Lashon Hara. Now, what happens if this is already known to at least three people? If three people already know about it, then one can assume that it's already known to the general public. If people already know about it and you pass on the information to somebody else, this already does not have the prohibition of Lashon Hara. As long as you have in mind that you don't want to pass on the message and to reveal it more and more. So now we just read something very, very interesting. How does one save themselves from speaking Lashon Hara? Because this is very, very easy to stumble upon, right? It's not so hard. You say a few words, you could be already speaking Lashon Hara. So how does one save themselves from speaking Lashon Hara? So there's two answers, there are two pieces of advice which are given. If somebody is a Torah scholar, it says over here, what can you do to save yourself from Lashon Hara? It says, Yasek b'Torah. One should involve themselves in learning Torah. So what happens? When somebody learns Torah, they refine themselves. When a Jew learns Torah, they connect to Hashem. Their mind unites literally with Hashem. You refine yourself. You become a new person slowly, slowly. So this refines a person's character traits that they're not going to want to come to speak Lashon Hara. What happens if somebody is not holding yet by the level of a Torah scholar? So what should they do? Whether or not they're a Torah scholar, they can't speak Lashon Hara, right? So how do you save yourself if one is not yet a Torah scholar? The answer is to practice humility. If one practices humility, they're not going to want to speak badly about other people. Now, does anybody remember, we learned in the previous chapter, what are some practical ways to practice humility? Anyone remember? We gave two tracks to think if you're better than somebody, what do you think? What do you do then? And if you think you're less greater than somebody, what do you do then? Anyone remember? So the first thing we said is you have to look at everyone as if they're greater than you. You have to look at everybody as if they are greater than you. What happens if you know that you know more Torah than them and you feel I'm much more knowledgeable than them, I must be much greater than them? How can a person practice humility in such a way?
Because you never see much
Exactly. If somebody knows so much and they were to transgress, that's much worse than if somebody who does not so know as much as you do and they transgress. Because somebody who knows better should have acted better. They know better. So why do they fall into transgressing? So even if somebody knows less than you, in a certain way, they do have a mila, they do have, so to speak, something greater than somebody who knows better. Because if they go ahead and transgress, it's not as bad as if somebody more knowledgeable goes ahead and transgresses. So when you look at somebody else, so even though you think you may know better than them, but you should think that they are more pious than you. Because everything that you see is not necessarily their fault, they just don't know any better. So by thinking like this about another person, this itself causes humility. You know, if I know this and this and this, but I know that I'm struggling with this and this and that, it lowers a person's ego, so to speak. You know, all of a sudden, we see we're not so perfect. And it could be that that person who's less knowledgeable could be is more righteous than us. That's one way. And for sure, if the other person knows more Torah than you, so that's already a reason to respect them. What happens, this is a very interesting thing we mentioned last time. What happens if the person is physically well off better than you? Does anyone remember why one should still have humility towards them? The answer was because Hashem doesn't give wealth to everybody, just they did something to deserve it. They have a schus, they have a merit that Hashem decided to give it to them. So whether we know what the merit is or not, it doesn't make a difference. Ultimately, the fact that they have it, it means that they must have done something so great to deserve it. And therefore, that itself, that alone, we should be humble because we are not on their level on a physical way. So therefore, that itself should cause us to be humble because we know that we're not fully there just yet. So that's those are practical ways of having humility towards other people. You know that these people, the other people, they're greater than us, and you look at everybody that they're greater than you, whether it is in a spiritual way or in a physical way caused by a spiritual way, whatever it is. We don't think that we are Hashem's gift to the world. We are the Hashem's gift to the world, but we don't boost our ego because of that. So this is a very important thing. So humility itself is a mitzvah. And not only that, humility brings that a person should not speak Lashon Hara, because if you look at everybody and you have respect to every single person, no matter what, you're not going to come to speak badly about them. You're not going to go and speak even rechilus to go speak about another person, because for you, these things they don't talk to you. They don't attract you to speak about other people. Vav, the sixth halacha. Omar Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, the sage Rabbi Yirmiyah, the son of Abba, said like this: Arba kites ein mekables pnei shchina. Wow. 4 types of people will not see the Shechina, the divine presence. Kat leitzim, kat chanefim, the kat shakronim, the kat mesapre lashon hara. Kat leitzim are the scorners. Kat chanefim are those that flatter others. Chanifa, they come to flatter somebody else. Oh, wow, this is so nice. And they don't really mean it. They mean it because they have other intentions. The kat, shakranim, liars. And the 4th one is those who speak Lashon Hara. This is a very severe thing. We see over here, there's 4 categories of people that tshuva works. If somebody goes ahead and they do tshuva, if they were in one of these categories, this does help. But we do see over here the seriousness of all of these things. To be part of the scoffers, people that scoff at people. Oh, this, that person, every single person they're mavatal, they completely just disregard, they put them down. Those are called leitzim. They scoff at people. Chanefim, people that go ahead and they flatter everyone. Oh, wow, this and this, but not in a genuine way. They don't really mean it. They're doing it because they want to gain something. People that lie, their whole life is lie after lie after lie. And those who speak Lashon Hara. The halachas that we're learning now, Lashon Hara is part of this group. Zion, the 7th halacha. So those are pretty much the halachas of Lashon Hara. So we can't speak Lashon Hara, and we gave examples of things which may not be straight out Lashon Hara, but nevertheless, if we speak them, it's also a form of Lashon Hara. It's called avak Lashon Hara. It's not as severe as Lashon Hara, but it is in the family, so to speak, and is connected to the prohibition of Lashon Hara. Zayin hanekim mechavere, somebody who takes revenge against their friend. Over beloisasa, they transgress a negative commandment. Shenemer leisikim, as the Torah says, one should not take revenge. The Kate said he had Nikima. What does it mean in a practical way? How do we define taking revenge? Omar lechavere, if a person says to their friend, Hashileni kadumach, can I please borrow something from you? Over here, the example is a spade, a shovel, whatever it is. Can I please borrow this from you? Omar lai, the friend answers him, Eini mashilach. I'm not going to borrow, I'm not lending it to you. Lamachar, tomorrow, the next day, this person that originally said no, that denied their friend to lend them their tool that they had, and now this person needs to use something, so they went back to the other person, and they said, Hashileni kardumach, can I please borrow my thing broke, can I please use yours? Amar lai eini mashilcha kamesh ata lai hishaltani kasher sha'alti mimach. And he said, Noikim v'ever b'lav. So the person that originally said, no, I'm not going to lend you my thing, now, today, he needs to borrow something from their friend. He goes ahead and asks the person who originally asked them to use their tool, and this person says, no, I'm not going to let you lend my thing. You didn't let me lend your thing yesterday. That's called revenge. Did you actually hurt the person? Did you actually do anything about it? Did you? You didn't do anything. You are not lending something to your friend because of what the wrong that they did to you. This is called taking revenge. This is not allowed. Amar lay eini mashilcha kamesh ata lay shaltani kashashalti mim chareza nekev ever balav. Ella, so what is the proper thing to do? When this person that originally did not let you use their thing, when they now have to come and ask you to borrow your tool, you should give with a whole heart. You should not treat them the same way they treated you. You should forego any wrong that they did to you. It's something called ma'avir al midaisav. Mundane things shouldn't bother you. Okay, so they wronged you. Nevertheless, you still have a mitzvah to help your friend. So you go ahead, you forego what happened, and you give it to them wholeheartedly. Yeah, by those people, the understanding people, we know that everything in this world, this person said this person did that. It's all emptiness. It's all it's not worth it. Lin came alehem. All these small things, it's not worth it to transgress the prohibition of taking revenge over such small, silly things. So did David HaMelech, King David, say, of last memory, Im Gamalti, Shel Mira, Machaltz, the game is a klal Kasavnim Simvav Sabimum. Yeah. This is a very interesting halacha ches. If you want to take true revenge against your enemies, you should add in good qualities, you should go in the proper way. By you bettering yourself, this is a revenge which is okay. You know, somebody's constantly putting you down and you're strengthening yourself in good and proper things. This is the best revenge. You know, there's the famous expression by the survivors of the Holocaust. What's their greatest revenge against the Nazis? Every single one of them will tell you that I have Jewish grandchildren. I go to shul on Shabbos. My children go to shul on Shabbos. My grandchildren go to shul on Shabbos. This is the greatest revenge. So did you go and did you hurt any former Nazis? You didn't do anything to them. The greatest revenge is you bettered yourself as a strong Jew. This is the best revenge. So it's the same exact concept that we see over here. Don't take revenge on another person by hurting them, chas v'shalom, because why would you want to go and transgress the prohibition of taking revenge? What is a proper revenge? By bettering yourself, being even kinder to people, going out of your way to being nicer, bettering your midos, your character traits. This is the okay revenge, so to speak. This is the best revenge when you strengthen yourself as a Jew. That is the proper thing to do. But if you do not good things, but if you go and you do the opposite and you do not good things, then the enemies will, oh, look, you see, they're going down and down and down. So we see by bettering ourselves in our midos and being nicer to other people, this is the greatest thing a person can do. Okay, in Mitzvah Hashem, we'll finish off the last halacha next week, and we will continue B'ez Hashem with the next set of halachas.